with Veteran Transition Publishing. I appreciate you giving us this time today to learn more about the student veteran programming, particularly lessons learned. Visiting with our team, we found a lot of successes, some unique challenges in 2017, but are also looking forward to the adventures ahead to us in 2018. So today I have two special guests with us. Of course, as always, it's always a pleasure to have Nick Osborne. Hey, Nick, thanks for joining us today. And then we also have Justin Spears from over there in California. So I appreciate you joining us as well.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate being here.
Thanks. So Justin, I'll start with you. Tell us where you're at, what's your program? I know you just got your program going here in the last year. Maybe give the audience a brief kind of rundown of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm up here in Redding, California. I'm at Simpson University, private college up here, liberal arts school. We offer undergraduates, adult studies, some nights, evenings, and graduate schools as well here. So yeah, up here in the north end of the valley, came on last September, to plan, develop, and kick off our Veteran Success Center here at Simpson University. We had a grand opening last November 17th, so coming up on a year. And so the last year, the last 3 semesters, I spent solely focused on planning, development, implementation, all the accreditation policies, things like that, all the administrative stuff. And then this year was our first year rolling out the veteran program to the student population.
Wow. So this is literally from scratch that you've developed in the last year.
Yes. Yeah. And the history of Simpson and Redding, because this is our 3rd location. We originally started up in Seattle, then we're down in the Bay Area, and now we've been up here for almost going on 30 years in Redding. But since we've been up here, there's never been a veteran program or a veteran center here on the campus.
Wow. Good. Good to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to some more information. So Nick, tell us about your program there in Illinois.
So we saw a nice spike in our enrollment with, we're up to 525 military connected students, which was a jump from about 470. So we were happy to see that. And I'd say that one of the most fundamental things that we've done this year, particularly this semester, is we've added 2 more courses in addition to the transition course that are just for military connected learners. So we have three classes. We have the transition course that we've discussed before, and then we have a career focused course. And then we have more of a life skills, coping with being a non-traditional student workshop that we offer. So all of our students, when they enroll, they have the possibility of going immediately into 3 classes that are just for veterans, just for military connected learners, and to progress as a cohort.
Great. And how long has the program been established now?
So I started the veterans program at Illinois almost 7 years ago, and then the Center for Wounded Veterans has been open for 2 years now.
Okay, great. Awesome. So one of the things that I want to start this program off today with, and I'll start with you, Justin, is a couple accomplishments. And I asked you prior to think about some ideas on this of, looking back, particularly. I mean, there's a lot of accomplishments, obviously, in starting a new program. But if you had to look and narrow down the 2 key things that you knew that really drove the success of your program that you're most proud of, what would those be?
Yeah, it's hard to narrow down to 2. We've had a lot of huge successes just rolling out this program, but excuse me. If I narrowed it down, I would say the first one would be our new human resources policy for all employees, current and new. And it's now a requirement of employment to complete 2 initial training modules of student veteran awareness. And then each summer I'll roll out a new student veteran awareness training module as well. And then the second one would be the implementation of the veteran peer-to-peer mentorship program. So here at Simpson, our traditional undergrad student body has what we call the TRACK program, which is Transfer Connect. And it's typically been done by your major programs of studies, but now we have the student veteran TRACK coaches. So it's student veterans that are juniors and seniors, and they're connected with mentees in first semester, second semester.
So I'm curious on the particularly in the faculty course, what's the number that are going through it, and how'd you structure it? I mean, how'd you come up with that program's going to include?
So I did partner with a third-party company, and so all of our training is done through a virtual classroom, and there's a database of about 80 to 90 different veteran training modules that were offered to Simpson University. So I went through, kind of browsed a bunch of them, see what's available. And there's two specific training modules that really stood out to what we're doing here at Simpson, educating our staff and faculty and even our student leaders on, what it means to be a veteran, what veteran life is about. Because a lot of people don't understand that being a veteran also means you're on active duty. They don't understand the differences there. And then also what it means to be a student veteran, some of the challenges that student veterans face, some of the issues with, time structure as far as having, spouses and children and jobs and, VA appointments, things like that they're going through, just really educating the campus on that so we can better, pull our resources together and serve them.
And has the reception been positive, or you find that some of them maybe not be as receptive to the idea of being put into these?
Right. It's been, I would say as a whole, it's been very receptive. The staff side is more receptive than the faculty, but I think that's just tradition in higher ed. But yeah, so, we turned it into, since this year was the initial rollout of it, we turned it into a healthy competition. So whoever finishes that, we've got our Veteran Ally window clings that go to their offices. They've also got a little printed certificate for it. And then whoever completes the most additional trainings into the school year, we give out coffee mugs to the top 5 people.
Awesome. Good. Always like a little competition. Awesome. Yeah. So Nick, I want to throw it to you. Looking back, I know you've accomplished a lot there in your time, but looking at 2017 in particular up to this date, I mean, what have been a couple of the big things that you can really put your finger on and say those are big successes for us?
I'd say, Terry, that it's really centered around career, and that's where this group is so motivated, is that they're here, they're getting a degree, and most of them are looking for that next piece in their life, which is landing not just a job, but something that's an actual career that's going to bring them fulfillment, that's going to bring them quality of life, and hopefully a nice salary as well. So with the career course, it's an 8-week course, and it's a 2-credit-hour elective just for military-connected students. And then Dustin teaches the course, and we utilize the book that we've co-written together, yourself, Dustin, and me. And really what we're doing is we're unpacking what it is they've done in the military so that they can start to see now how to be competitive in a civilian employer market. And that's everything from translating their skills, going through mock interviews that we put them through, getting a nice working resume or CV that they have as a start point, and then learning how to, I've got 3 years here at the University of Illinois. How do I begin building a network? What does that look like? What does that mean? What is the significance of an internship? Why should I do that? So we're getting them to think about this from their first semester on campus rather than waiting until their senior year, which is what a lot of traditional programs do. And we have 17 students enrolled, and so far the feedback has just been overwhelmingly positive. And then the second piece, which is also related to that, is that we started a professional mentoring program that matches one-on-one one of our student veterans with a mid-level to senior level mentor. And so we have like Boeing, Google, Chevron, British Petroleum, some very large companies who have come on. And what it is that we hosted them for a lunch, and then they agree to commit to 1 year to mentor a student one-on-one, usually via Skype. And what it is it's one of those things like you, Terry, saying, okay, I've been in this industry for 30 years. This is what I wish I had known when I was starting out. Or this is what you want to do while you're in college. Make sure you pick up this course, or that you get some exposure in this, because that's really going to help you in the field. And what it's doing is it's bringing our students into this professional network, leading to internship opportunities, and in some cases even leading to job opportunities.
Awesome. So now, is this in conjunction like with the school's career center? I mean, are they playing an active role in this, or are they kind of letting you take the lead on it?
Good question. So we have a career center for the entire university. And again, we have 46,000 students. So then each of the individual colleges, like the College of Business, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, they also have their own career center. So what we're doing is we're creating our own career center through the center, but it's not one of those that if you work with us, you can't work with others. We just have that military specialty that is very unique to the students we serve.
Okay. And so I'm curious, because I know in previous discussions on career components with you and Dustin on this, that disconnect on campus, it's like, oh, well, that's the Veteran Center. So, they kind of do their own thing. Are you leveraging the Career Center, the main campus one at all to kind of help build some of the components to this?
Exactly. So they've actually come in and looked at our syllabus and given feedback. And then, they realize that we have the military piece, but what is universal to students is like, how do you prepare for an interview? Or what are some of the most common mistakes that you see in a cover letter? Or, you shouldn't talk poorly about your previous employer in an interview, stuff like that. They've been really helpful in coaching us, coming in and meeting with our students, but also recognizing that we really bring that military focus, that military lens, which is so unique and important.
Good. Perfect. Back to you, Justin. So obviously with successes and accomplishments, there's those unique challenges that come along the way too. So I'm curious, when I asked you to narrow down the two, what were those? What are the two challenges you faced?
I would say, the two challenges that we faced, the first one was our reporting and tracking procedures for at-risk student veterans. We have a program here on campus that we use that was, historically, it's only been for our traditional undergraduate community. It never was rolled out, or there wasn't the buy-in in our graduate and adult studies programs. And then, I'm not siloed to just the traditional undergrad student vets. I work with the night and evening student veterans. I work with the graduate student vets. So it's kind of a unique role that I play outside of the norm in higher ed here. And so, we pushed real hard to roll this CARE program out to just create a standardized reporting system across campus. So, there was a lot of presentations. We had to give a lot of evidence. We had to have some issues come up to create that buy-in. And that buy-in took a long period of time. And then even when we had the buy-in from the other professors and the deans of the other schools, I use the student veteran platform as a focus to, really grow this program. But now it's showing beneficial to even traditional students in these programs. But it's created some, even the technology hiccups were a challenge. We had to reach out to the software owner and help and guide them through what we needed as far as a filter and a tracking system, and adding different parameters to that database as well. So that was a very big change over the summer that we rolled out. There was a large team working on that, but after months of working on it, it's proven to be very successful. We're able to help out the student vets from tutoring to behavioral concerns. We're able to intervene immediately.
Awesome. Well, on that one, before you go on to the next one, I know Nick and I, in the Camouflage to Campus course, had talked about that too, being able to identify those students so that you can have some reach out programs. I mean, it triggers so much stuff that becomes available to you. But the first part is the critical part, which is identifying. So with that challenge, are you starting to see the trickle down effects of this? I mean, are you starting to see a more engagement from the current students and being able to target them better?
Yes, we are. And it's good you mentioned about your book, because I actually got a lot of these ideas from the Camo to Campus course, specifically this one. So thanks again for that. But yeah, we've seen a trickle down effect. We're now actually seeing student veterans launching care reports about other student veterans. They're seeing, emotional concerns or at-risk behavior, or they're in a class with another student veteran, and they're hearing the conversations of, struggling academically or retaining the information. And so, that's led us into growing other fields like our student veteran tutoring program and our student veteran academic coaching program. things like that, just helping them out. So we've had a huge increase in reporting, but it's not traditional at-risk behavior. A lot of it's the academic part of it. So we've got a lot of student veteran tutors taking place and academic coaches, and our academic success center. I'm working with them pretty regularly now just to get our tutors available to the student vets, usually within 24 hours now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's been really quick since we've launched this program.
Well, I know you're doing a lot of activities on campus, and I think you mentioned that was also a challenge. So I'm interested in hearing about that one.
Yeah, one of the bigger challenges that came this year, it's our first school year, the 17-18 school year, having the veteran program on campus. But one of them came right away with our student veteran orientation. We have a kind of a matchbook orientation here that we typically do each year. And I don't, because we're a smaller school of about 1,200 students total, I didn't want to do a completely independent orientation. It's a smaller school, very community-based. So I actually try really hard to get our student veterans the services they need in the center, their own space there, and their own community. But I also try and get them involved in this, the small community on campus. So it was integrating the veteran services into our traditional orientation. And so I had to sit down with a team of people and go through and see where student veterans need to be, what services they need, what services they don't need, because there's a lot of them that they don't need. And just, we actually, in our weekend, because our orientation is about 4 days here for the fall. And so we went through and created the SV tab. And so student veterans can look at that and see exactly where they need to be all 4 days. And it proved very successful. We had a 3-hour or 4-hour breakout just in our Veteran Success Center. And that was the specific Veteran Success Center orientation, where we brought all of our service and resources representatives in. Community members that help us out here, they came in, and then our student veteran organization was involved in it. Our track coaches were there, so I mean it was an all hands on deck event. But it was really a struggle to work with these people and find out where student veterans are, because it's just never been a focus before. So after about 5 months of planning, it rolled out really well. I got a lot of really good feedback from it, but it was definitely a challenge trying to figure out, what we need to add, what we need to take away.
Yeah, I bet. Well, certainly, that's a lot. That's a lot to take on, and kudos to you for getting that one. So I imagine that was a challenge. Nick, I know visiting with you throughout the year, different hurdles have come up, but I'm curious which ones you picked for your 2 key challenges.
I like the question because you always have to constantly evaluate your program, even when you get awards and positive media attention and all this stuff that quote unquote looks good. You still have to stop and say, okay, but what is the student veteran perspective? What is the perspective of the larger boots on the ground? Do they trust us? Are we being authentic? Are we following up on time? So thankfully, I can say that the internal stuff on campus is really, knock on wood, it's in a flow. We're in a rhythm, but we're still dealing with those larger macro structures. And what I mean by that is, I'd say the asterisk next to my biggest headache is the translation of military credit and awarding institutional credit. There's still that message that a lot of individuals get leaving the military that, hey, you're going to go right to a university and have 2 years wiped out. And the case is that that's very, very, very rarely the case. And I have to be the bearer of bad news and to say, you're probably going to be starting from scratch here. And so I think that that's what our office is really trying to do, is to get a cleaner message out that, we are a very competitive public university. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't do a better job of looking at the credit issue, but ultimately the perspective is that you go through, let's say, 5 years in the military as a military police officer, and then you get this recommendation for 1 credit hour of sociology, 1 credit hour of criminology, 1 credit hour of physical fitness. So that's what comes on the military transcript. And then the university's perspective is, well, we don't have anything that's 1 credit in sociology or criminology or physical fitness. You have to go into a 3 or 4 credit hour sociology course. So the message is that the military is saying one thing, and then most universities are interpreting it in a very different way. So our focus is to get that message in a much more cleaner profile so that our incoming veterans know that.
Gotcha. Good point. So I'm curious, Justin's coming from a private institution, yours a public. I know this topic has come up a lot, in different various program, conference, et cetera, about how do we compete? Because, online institutions have historically, given that out.
Right.
Are you finding that, I guess I'm trying to figure out how to answer the question. Are you finding people, once they learn about it, are pushing back a little bit? It's like, well, maybe I'll go some other route. Or are you finding students are like understand? And I mean, it's a unique discussion to have, I'm sure.
I don't want to blow numbers and be like, hey, this is what we're doing. But we had a meeting with the provost this week, and our average ACT score is almost a 29, which is very high. And so I think that we definitely attract a certain type of student. We also primarily attract in-state residents. So, folks that grew up in Illinois. And there are those phone calls that we get or those emails, and it's very clear that the veteran is interested in, I just want to get a degree as quickly as possible. And we don't have any problem saying, this probably isn't the right fit for you, because if you come here, you're going to be tested. This is academically, this is a very challenging school. And a lot of our students were very bright and very brilliant in high school, and they get here and they go, wow. And part of that is high school, maybe they didn't have to work so hard because it came naturally to them. So they don't necessarily have the study skills, the habits, the time management, and the process that you really need to be a successful student here. So without a doubt, we do get students or prospective students that do say, I'm just really interested in getting a degree as quickly as possible. And we'll say, okay, well, let us steer you to some other schools that are probably a better fit.
Gotcha. Okay. So, but, it's one challenge. Any other challenges that you've encountered this year that you want to highlight?
So, this is, to me, I think it really speaks to having that great relationship with your student veteran community. And then also through the transition course is I start the transition course by saying, how many of you thought you'd be coming to the U of I out of high school? And very few raised their hands. And so I'll ask them, well, what do you mean by that? And the overwhelming majority every year say, there must have been an administrative issue where I got in. I shouldn't be here. I don't know how that happened. And a lot of our students start off in community colleges. So I'm thinking that there's probably a breakdown in communication between the University of Illinois and the Illinois community colleges in terms of veterans seeing themselves as potential U of I students. So what we're doing is we're launching a campaign that's going to invite all of the veterans coordinators and a student veteran leader from each of the community colleges to come here next semester for a working lunch, a good 5 or 6 hours to sit down and say, we have a lot of student veterans here. And not only that, they're very successful as students, and a lot of them didn't think that they would even get in here in the first place. How do we get that message on your campus that this is a great place for veterans and that it is very doable?
Awesome. That sounds exciting,
Yeah, it is. It keeps me out of trouble too. So, I got to come up with projects.
Nice. Always something to do. Job security. All right. So now I think we're at the point, which is a lot of people, in our Camouflage, the campus program, we talk about purpose, mission, and goals. And I always, recently, in fact, last week, I was just at another conference doing that same pitch to a number of TRIO programs, and some of the veteran upward bound programs were there as well. And I was really focusing on, it's important and it's critical to really narrow down those goals for the upcoming semester, the half year, whatever it might be, and really put those on the board and aim to strive for those. And you both have brought up some things that you want to continue to grow in 2018. But Justin, I'm curious, have you already started mapping out 2018 and where those goals are kind of leading toward?
Yeah, we started mapping it out during the summer. That was part of my planning process for the 17-18 school year, starting to get to a point early on, to start looking a year ahead. It's been difficult just being, in the embryonic stages of such a small program here at the school, but it's been very welcomed on campus, like we talked about, and everybody on campus here, all the staff, departments, and offices, they're looking at how can we integrate, the veteran awareness and the veteran culture and resources in, the events that we're hosting, even down to, we're having a spring preview that's starting today and tomorrow here on campus, a fall preview, and they ask the question of, are you a veteran that's attending this event? If so, we're going to match you up with one of our student veteran organization leaders and get you, the information you need and the experience. And so, looking forward to 2018, one that I'm personally very excited about is I'm having some students join me at the SVA National Conference in January. So I'm really excited. Our first year, I've got 3 students going with me. That's really big in my opinion. So I'm really happy about that. We've got our military appreciation campaign that kicks off in the spring. And right now, we just started the conversation with the academic council on a proposal for reinterpreting military credit policies. And so we're starting that. I'm very confident that that's going to provide some new resources and benefits for the veterans transferring off active duty. And then also we're looking at what are we planning for the student veterans in the summer? We're not a year-round school. Our summer semester here is closed, and it's pretty vacant here on campus. But I have student vets that are coming up to me during the summer while I'm working and saying, I'm not from here. I'm bored. I need to be engaged. How can I help? And so since we're in a smaller community here, not just campus-wise, but city-wise, there's only 90,000 people in Reading, but we have 30,000 veterans in the county here. So it's a win-win for us there. So what we're doing is businesses, organizations, mentors, they're all vets. They're actually coming together to start planning out events to get our student vets engaged in the summer. And then we're already starting to talk about our orientations next year and planning our vet night events each month.
Nice. Well, you'll have to connect with Nick. I know he's going to be at the SVA as well. You're doing a presentation there, so you guys will be good to connect there. How many students are you planning on taking, Justin?
I'm taking 3 with me this year.
Awesome. Good. That should be fun.
Officers going with me, and then one of our business majors is going there. He's hoping to land an internship. So.
Now, on the military credit card, it's interesting because Nick was just talking about that as well. I mean, what's your vision on that? I mean, what would you like to see happen on that policy?
Well, it's a reinterpretation of our current alternative credit view of military credits. So on your joint service transcript, you've got 2 sections. You've got military courses and military experience. Currently, our policy is anything that is ACE accredited is considered alternative credits. They view it as outside of the classroom. So we had a big meeting, big education session a couple weeks ago with the registrar's office and academic council, where I educated them on the differences between the two. I was in the Navy. After boot camp, I went to hospital corpsman school. And then after that, I went on to aerospace medicine tech school. There's a couple other schools that I did, brick and mortar schools while I was in the military, between logistics and security training. And those are recognized here as alternative credits. And so I approached them and said, I think we may be misunderstanding what military credits are. I said, there's definitely your on-the-job experience credits that we get from your military experience section in there. I said, but I really want to talk about our military courses. So here at Simpson, the way that it's been for many years is alternative credits are capped at 30 units to be transferred in. But we accept 84 transfer units total towards a bachelor's degree. So military transcripts, the max you could have ever gotten was 30 units. And now what we're proposing is the alternative credits, the military experience, is still categorized as the alternative credits. So there would be a max of 30 units transferring in. But military course credits would transfer in up to that 84 units. So it would transfer in, but it has to be degree applicable. And we're running into, like what Nick was talking about with the single credits and lower and upper division, fulfilling requirements or even applying to requirements of, like he said, the sociology classes, or if you have a single credit of communications, what is that going to get you? Or can we even transfer that? So we're starting that right now and seeing where it goes. I'm very confident that we're going to change a lot of things in that policy and allow for more military transfer credits coming in. But a lot of it is going to be, we have to figure out where some of the 1s and 2s transfer in, which is, that's a little deeper conversation that I'm having with the academic council right now.
Well, good. Well, man, I got to say, just visiting with you I think it was last fall, before I think you just got the role.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm very proud, of all the accomplishments you've done there. I know I've been in touch with Nick quite a bit and talking about your story and what you've done and your feedback about the course that you've taken with us. So I'm glad we were able to support you during this adventure. So kudos to you. You're doing an amazing job.
I just want to
appreciate it.
Just say it sounds like you're really thinking through this in a great way, and you're already putting a lot of wonderful stuff that took me a lot longer to figure out. So kudos to you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I found I've been networking a lot with a lot of the public higher ed veterans programs, and a lot of what I find really fascinating is a lot of the ideas and planning that some of the public schools are having a hard time getting past the red tape on, because we're a private institution. My president, Dr. Doomer here, comes from a long military family. He missed the draft by 2 weeks, so he's the only one that didn't serve. But he's the biggest supporter of this program. And so if I go to him with a sound program that's already planned out, 9 times out of 10 he's on board with it.
Awesome. Good for you. All right, Nick, your turn. So tell me about 2018. What's the plan? What are you planning on kicking off there?
So we got our needs assessment survey back, and we're going through that right now. We're going to be meeting probably within the next 2 weeks to really sketch out more details. But a couple of things, just like Justin said, I think the SVA NatCon, the national conference, is going to be, it's just always a phenomenal event. And so I'm going to be leading a discussion panel with 2 colleagues, and then we're also bringing 2 of our student veteran leaders who are already just engaged in so much. And part of 2018 we talked about as a staff is that this is a very competent, capable group, and we need to look beyond the fact sometimes that they're quote unquote students and really start treating them as we're preparing them to become peers and professionals. And so we're bringing more of our students in on some of the meetings that we're doing, the activities, so that they get that professional development perspective, but then in turn, we also get the student perspective. Other things that we're looking at are continuing to grow the professional mentoring program that I talked about. We have 15 in our first cohort, which is phenomenal. We were hoping for 7 or 8. And our goal now for 2018 is to grow that up to 30 mentees, so 30 students, and then to have 30 different companies represented.
Awesome. Wow. So the involvement component, I know, and what's the number of staff that you have with you at this point?
So we have 3 core staff, and then we also have VA staff and interns and work study. So if we were to consider all of those, we have probably close to 15.
Okay. So there's a lot to one, just from a human resourcing management, talking about engaging them in the meetings and components. I mean, that alone is a challenge, but, but having them absorb and be involved. So yeah, I could see the benefits of having that professional component, because it is a key strategy. I mean, being part of those meetings and developing and being responsible, taking leadership. I mean, those are all things that employers are looking for. So great. Anything else that you're really focusing on for 2018?
I think that, our turnout at events is very high. Our orientation had about 55 students. We're always still looking at, how do we improve that? Our Veterans Day event, every year we have our Department of Intercollegiate Athletics gives us free tickets, and I mean we do have a military flyover. We bring everybody out on the field, all of our student veterans, for just a huge recognition. So I just can't emphasize enough how important it is, and that's something that we're always looking at, is how do we not just take care of our students, but also then share all of these rich experiences with the campus community, but as well as our larger community that we live in.
That's great. Great. So I want to, before I wrap it up, I want to give each an opportunity to, like, you know, there's a lot of diversity of people who are watching this video with all ranges from, you know, just getting started to where you were, you know, a year ago, Justin, to, you know, advanced, even more experienced than, say, Nick. You know, if you were to, if you're given some suggestion, a piece of advice going into 2018 of something that you've learned and experienced so far in this career path, and say, hey, this should be your primary goal, or this is something to really focus in, what would be a piece of motivating advice that you would give? Volunteer first.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think maybe a couple pieces of advice. First, something that's worked well for me that I've really thought through a lot is, you know, I don't like to, you know, have hip pocket conversations about an idea. Usually what I do is have a well-rounded business plan. This is the overall picture. These are the dynamics of it. This is the buy-in. This is the benefit. You know, these are the involvement aspects. You know, even down to setting the higher law and things like that. Really together. It definitely helps to get a yes for your idea when you have that. You know, I've tried it both ways to get a feel. If you do all the footwork at the beginning of a program, it's easier to get things approved that way. But you know, like Nick was talking about, the professional preparation. You know, we launched Vet Night this year, and so it meets once a month. It's a potluck and a presentation on you know, professional development, student experience development, and I think that's really important to get our student veterans together, you know, regularly with the focus of professional development, because you know, a lot of veterans are, you know, I wouldn't say a lot actually, a small portion of veterans are blindsided by you know, getting out of the military. It was unexpected, but a lot of them, myself included, being out 3 years from the Navy now, you know, that planning for the unknown, for the transition, is very hard. So my goal is for student veterans to be well prepared for that next transition and not go into the unknown again. So the professional development, the mentorship, the career planning, the resume workshops, and interview skills, those things are paramount right away in their you know, first, second semester, first years, just to get the conversation going during their student experience. So you know, they're well prepared, and I love Nick's idea of, you know, getting the students involved in the conversations and the meetings and the planning. That's definitely something I'm going to take away, Nick. Thank you. But yeah, you know, getting them more involved. I work with our student veteran organization all the time, all of our planning, because I need that student perspective.
Awesome. Cool. And I appreciate you being a participant in our program, Camouflage to Campus. It's great to get your feedback again. And I hope it continues to be a support base for you as you move forward.
Absolutely.
Nick, any last words for our audience?
You know, I try to keep my formula simple. I'm a pretty simple dude. And I'd say always make sure that you have your communication flowing with your students. So trust, authenticity, first and foremost. And you do that by, you know, touching base with your student veteran organization. If you have any sort of a mentoring program, you know, making sure that you're always getting the student perspective, sending out a needs assessment survey. I think at least once a semester is important, because it gives them that symbolism that you're listening. Doesn't mean you're going to do everything that they're asking, but it means that you're at least taking into consideration what they feel is important. And then the weekly emails that we send out. So every week I send out an email touching base with this is what's going on specific to, military people, veterans, stuff like that. It could be Jimmy John's is offering free sandwiches to veterans, or Supercuts is offering a discount to military for a free haircut. Just letting them know that we are keeping an eye on things that we feel are important to them. And I've had so many students say, when they graduate, I'd get your weekly email, and, I only participated in a handful of the activities or events, but I just really liked knowing that somebody, has our back on campus. And then on the other side is you got to also go upstairs. And I'm not a big fan of committees and work groups or meetings, but unfortunately that's the life that I live in my career. But I do feel that you really need to have a team behind you to make any program be successful. And so I would say, in addition to the trust with the students, make sure that you're working with your campus collaborators, the people on your veterans committee. Those are the folks that come together in strength. They can go to the provost or go to the chancellor and actually get policy in place or change existing policy if necessary. So I think that you have to work upstairs and downstairs in terms of with the boots on the ground student perspective, but also with your own institutional team.
Good information, definitely. Well, thank you both again for your participation today. I know I've gained a lot from this, and I hope people viewing this have as well. I want to remind our viewers that there is a wealth of information available for free on our website, Veteran Transition Publishing. Some great videos you can take advantage of, resources, white papers, samples of our publications are available. But if you have not taken advantage to investigate and dig into a lot of the topics that we talked about today, our program Camouflage the Campus really is the baseline to developing and enhancing your program, and I encourage you to take a look at that, explore. There's some videos on that available on our website as well. That's veterantransitionpublishing.com. So I appreciate your time. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for your participation today, and look forward to hearing about 2018 successes.
Thanks again, Terry.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it.